Out of all of the diseases that's going to kill us, Alzheimer's disease is the only one that robs you of who you are. Have a look around you. If you look to the person to your right and then look to the person to your left, at least one of you will get this disease. And 2 out of 3 cases of this disease is female. Most of us spend our entire lives looking for ourselves. We're journaling, we're meditating, and by the time we find out who we are is probably at the time that that is going to be robbed of you if you don't take care of your brain. Out of every intervention I can think of, exercise is by far the #1 elixir for brain health and brain span. This is not an optional self-care. This is your cognitive Olympics. I'm Louise Nicola, and this is the Neuro Experience. Hi everyone, and welcome to today's solo episode. I really wanted to do this to take a deep dive, or a mini deep dive, into the risk that is placed upon you every single day of getting Alzheimer's disease. As many of you know, Alzheimer's disease is at the heart of what I do. I've spent the last decade of my life investigating this disease alone and the prevalence of it. And I've come to many conclusions, and I've changed the way I think just as new science emerges. Around a year ago, I made the decision to go really deep on figuring out what females can do to lower the risk of Alzheimer's disease. So in today's episode, this one is really geared at midlife women and giving you insights into why you have an increased risk of getting this disease and how you can lower the risk of getting cognitive decline and dementia. So let's get into it. Right now, 55 to 60 million people worldwide have Alzheimer's disease, and that number is going to triple by the year 2050. So that means 150 million people will have this neurodegenerative disease that is 95% preventable. Have a look around you, and this is the way I really pose it. If you look to the person to your right and then look to the person to your left, at least one of you will get this disease. And 2 out of 3 cases of this disease is female. So I have a lot of work on my hands. I get a lot of comments from 30-year-olds, 35-year-olds telling me that they really don't have to take care of their brain just yet because they're not 70. But let me tell you, Alzheimer's disease is a 20 to 30-year progression. So wherever you are right now, you are either increasing your risk of getting cognitive decline or decreasing your risk of getting cognitive decline. For the sake of this argument, I want you to do an exercise with me right now. I want you to imagine the last 10 years of your life. Imagine the vacations you took. Imagine the conversations you had with your mother, your father. Imagine if you have had kids. Imagine when you gave birth to your kids. Imagine all of these things that you have done, all the countries you've traveled to, the conversations that you've had with your spouse. Imagine all of that and all of the rituals glitching away over time and then being robbed of you. What we don't realize is that out of all of the diseases that's going to kill us, whether it's cardiovascular disease, cancer, Alzheimer's disease is the only one that robs you of who you are. The 86 billion neurons in your brain that is operating 24/7 is responsible for who you are. Most of us spend our entire lives looking for ourselves. We're journaling, we're meditating, we're going on crazy adventures. We're getting therapy to find out who we are. And by the time we find out who we are is probably at the time that that is going to be robbed of you if you don't take care of your brain. So my pledge to you is to really listen to the things that I'm telling you and take them into consideration. I understand, unlike your body, you can't see the results happening in real time. If you get on a low-calorie diet, if you start exercising, you'll see the difference in the mirror. I understand you won't see the real differences of brain-healthy practices, but you will, and you'll thank yourself at age 70 and age 80. Because let me tell you, being diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease is comparable to being diagnosed with end-stage cancer. It is non-reversible. There is no cure, but you can prevent and slow the progression of this disease. Let's go with a few more stats. As I mentioned earlier, 2 out of 3 cases of Alzheimer's disease is female. 55 million people worldwide. You may ask, Louisa, why? Why are 2 out of 3 cases female? We used to think it was because women lived longer, but we also now have evidence to show that due to the hormonal shifts that we go through, characterized by perimenopause and menopause, we know that that is actually resulting as well in cognitive decline. The loss of estrogen, the loss of progesterone is in fact deteriorating the cells of your brain. We have 86 billion neurons in the human brain. Each neuron communicates with nearby neurons, creating what we call synapses, which are responsible for how we think, how we move, our thoughts, our information processing speed, how happy we are, how depressed we are, and our mood. And we have around 10 to 15,000 connections per cell. So imagine that. If you want to imagine your brain cells like a tree, okay, the trunk is the axon, the branches are the dendrites, and then the leaves that come off of the branches are these little connections. And you have to imagine the axons as antennas for the neurons. And those axons, the branches, connect with other branches. And over time, the connections are the things that break down. That's why the first symptoms of cognitive decline are short-term memory. Your thinking kind of feels off. You probably get brain fog and you completely disregard this. You think maybe you're stressed, but these are actually cries for help from your brain. So when these dendrites start to overwork and start to die off, that's what results in cognitive decline. You guys know how important blood work is. I mean, I talk about this so often. It's the foundation of optimization. If you don't test, you're guessing. That's why I use Function Health. It's the only health platform that gives you access to over 100 different biomarkers, everything from hormones and inflammation to thyroid and liver function. And it tracks them all over time so you can see the full picture of your health. For me, it's not about chasing disease. It's about understanding my body at a deeper level. And that's what's helping. So I am making data-driven decisions every day. If you don't know what your vitamin D level is, then you shouldn't be supplementing with vitamin D. You should be looking at what's under the hood, and that's what comprehensive blood work does. If you have the same insight and you want to check your bloods, go to functionhealth.com/Louisa Nicola or go to functionhealth.com, use gift code NEURO100 to sign up to your own health and get $100 off. When I talk about recovery, most people think of muscles or sleep, but mental recovery is what I'm actually talking about because this is what is teaching your nervous system to downshift. It is so essential. And it's so essential to building muscle and having a healthier performing brain. That's where Calm has been a game changer for me. I use it between meetings or flights to reset my stress response in under 10 minutes. Their guided meditations and breathing sessions bring your heart rate down and help restore focus faster than caffeine ever could. So if you have a racing mind and you're really not good at sitting there for 10 minutes in absolute silence or even meditating, then you have to use Calm. And if you're someone who lives in high gear, then give your brain the opposite of stimulation. Give it stillness. If you want to try this out, go to calm.com/Louisa for 40% off your Calm premium subscription. The first thing that I want you guys to think of is I want you to stop outsourcing your brain to luck. And this is just because I've come across tens of thousands of women on social media who really rely on luck. As I mentioned, Alzheimer's disease is not a disease of old age. It's a midlife disease with old age symptoms. So if you are 40 to 60 and you're coasting through life, sleep deprivation, not exercising or not exercising adequately or properly, dehydrating, which is very common, living on processed foods, ignoring your hormones, you are writing a prescription for your own decline. Luck is not a plan. Preparation is. Let's talk about the neurological event that occurs and will occur between every single one of us who is listening if you are female and if you are lucky enough to get to that age, and that is menopause. Menopause is not just a reproductive event, it's a neurological event. And I think it's getting spotlighted right now. If you've seen on social media, you probably have, whether it's mine or whether it's somebody else in the space, hormone replacement therapy. It's completely spotlighted right now. Why? Well, that's because over the last 20 or 30 years, millions upon millions of women were scared out of taking, and they were robbed out of being offered hormone replacement therapy in fear of increasing their risk of getting breast cancer. And that was because of the Women's Health Initiative, which was a fraudulent study, in my opinion, that scared so many millions of women, my mother is one included, out of taking hormone replacement therapy. We now know that that has been debunked. We've seen so much data to suggest that hormone replacement therapy is extremely important to reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease and Alzheimer's disease. I'll tell you why. Estradiol, which is a form of estrogen, this is the one that starts to deplete during this neurological event known as perimenopause. That's when it starts to decrease, and then menopause is the complete cessation of producing our own endogenous estrogen. So we don't produce any estrogen anymore. Then you've got to think, well, Louisa, why is it so important? Well, it turns out that we have estrogen receptors all over our body. Receptors and hormones are like keys and locks. So we've got this receptor, let's imagine, on the cells of our brain. And imagine this circulating estradiol going around, and it lodges onto that receptor. And when it does that in the brain, it opens up the brain cell to function better. That's all you have to know. Estrogen helps the brain cells function better. Specifically, it helps it with regulating glucose. Glucose is the brain's main energy fuel source. And when it is dysregulated, that's when we see a whole bunch of issues happening. In fact, this is exactly why Dr. Lisa Mosconi and her group found a 30% reduction in brain glucose metabolism at the point of perimenopause and menopause, which I think is wild. And she found this on PET imaging. And I thought that was so wild to know. Why do women in this state have a 30% reduction in brain glucose metabolism? It's because of estradiol. What else does estrogen do for the brain? Well, it's neuroprotective. You've probably heard me talk about creatine being neuroprotective. Estrogen is also neuroprotective. And when I say neuroprotective, imagine the 86 billion neurons in your brain floating around, being at the mercy of insults. An insult to your brain is environmental toxins, ultra-processed foods, stress, lack of sleep, which, by the way, I am also at the mercy of. And I don't want you to think that I'm sitting here with the most perfect functioning brain. We are all, women and men especially, we are really at the mercy of so many harmful insults just on a day-to-day basis, because we are living in 2025 and the rise of social media, environmental toxins, spending 95% of our time indoors. Our brain really has to put up with a lot. So when we think about neuroprotection, we're thinking about the protection on our brain cells. I like to think about it as helmets on our neurons. It protects the neurons. So when we don't have estrogen available, that protection is gone. So just think about that. Every decision we make around health comes down to one thing: cellular energy. It is the currency that fuels focus, performance, and longevity. Timeline's Mito Pure is the one and only supplement that actually works at that level. It contains something called urolithin A, which I am obsessed with because it's been clinically proven to recharge mitochondria. These are the powerhouses of your cells. So they produce energy more efficiently and they don't become dysfunctional. Dysfunctional mitochondria is at the seat of almost every chronic disease. I've been using the Mito Pure daily supplement, and I have noticed that I am recovering better. I have sharper cognition, and let me tell you, my workouts are stronger. If you care about long-term brain health, this is where you start. Visit timeline.com/neuro for 20% off your order. There's two things that you can have there, guys. There's the supplement version or the gummies. I'm actually having both because the gummies are like a sweet treat for me, but they're not packed with sugar. That is timeline.com/neuro for 20% off. Okay, so let's talk about joggers and what you're actually putting on your feet, because I think that somebody like me, like I'm always in activewear. When I go to the gym, I always have to run out somewhere afterwards. I live in Manhattan, so I'm always in joggers. And one of the biggest things that's changed for me is I started wearing the Viore's performance joggers. It's been insane because they're made with something called their Dream Knit fabric. They are the softest thing that you'll ever put on your body. They're lightweight, breathable, and built to move with you. I wear them everywhere, literally on flights, to the gym, when I'm running to coffee, when I'm running to the office. I literally wear them all the way up and down Manhattan. They're versatile, they're minimal, and they actually make you want to slow down between hard sessions. I think that everyone should really put time and effort into their footwear because it's an actual investment. You should go and check out Viore because they have been absolutely phenomenal for me over the past 3 months. For listeners of this show, Viore is offering 20% off your first purchase at viore.com/neuro. That's VUORI.com/neuro. You'll get 20% off plus free shipping on US orders over $75 and free returns. And when it comes to hormone replacement therapy, we now have available to us bioidentical hormones. It's still being studied, but we have seen an association between hormone replacement therapy taken within the 10-year window of menopause onset and cognitive decline, meaning that women who were tracked over several years, those who were taking hormone replacement therapy in that magic window, decreased their risk of cognitive decline and decreased their risk of getting Alzheimer's disease. Go figure, right? By the way, progesterone as well is really beneficial for the brain. And another hormone that we don't really talk about is testosterone. We think about testosterone as the libido hormone, right? Women actually have more testosterone than estrogen. And guess what? Testosterone in the brain is wild. And we've seen patients who have had a low testosterone, and that could mean anything because remember, testosterone is a receptor hormone, meaning that it can fluctuate 24/7. Like if you've been sleep deprived and you've been traveling, maybe your testosterone will be low, but if you do it the next day, maybe it'll be high. But women in perimenopause who actually take testosterone therapy, just putting testosterone cream on the inside of their thighs, report in 1 week increases in mood, happiness, vigilance, drive, and they start to feel like who they are actually. And I quote, so many women say, I feel like me again. So just what I've just told you, this should really spark an intrigue in the beneficial effects of hormones. As it will. I'm not telling you to go and take them. I'm just telling you that that's what the evidence is. Let's move on to sleep because I'm actually teaching you, this is kind of a mini masterclass on all the things you can be doing to decrease your risk. We've known for years that sleep is really powerful for the brain and body. Just one night of sleep deprivation can increase your amyloid in your brain. Now, let's think about this. What the hell is Alzheimer's disease? Well, Alzheimer's disease is different from the other dementias slightly. We've got Parkinson's dementia, we've got dementia with Lewy bodies, but with Alzheimer's disease specifically, we see two proteins in the brain. We see amyloid beta, then we also see another one, which is called tau proteins. Now, amyloid beta lives outside of the neuron within the cerebral spinal fluid. So you've got all your little neurons, 86 billion neurons. You've got other specialized cells. We've got different types of neurons, right? We've got different types of brain cells. We've got other ones called glial cells. We've got astrocytes, and they all function for different various reasons. The glial cells actually live between two neurons. They're sticky, and they are the immunity cells. So our brain has its own immune system. Go figure. It's so interesting because amyloid is actually increased when we activate our innate immune system. So every time you get stressed or every time you activate that immune system within your brain, amyloid builds up. But here's the amazing thing. We can wash that out during sleep, and it gets washed out specifically during deep slow wave sleep. It's also known as stage 3 non-REM sleep. So sleep is so fundamental for the human brain and human body, and we should be aiming at getting at least 1 hour of deep sleep per night. You can measure this on various types of wearables, the Oura Ring, the Whoop strap, whatever you want to do, the 8 sleep mattress, but you should be aiming at getting that because during deep sleep, those glial cells, they shrink. And what happens when they shrink? That means the cerebral spinal fluid can wash away, and actually is really beautiful when you see it. It's like synchrony. It's washing like a washing machine and pushing it down in these perivascular spaces and getting rid of all of the toxin and the debris that occur. So please, if you can, try so hard to optimize your sleep. Let's move on to my favorite topic. Muscle is a cognitive organ. Skeletal muscle is not just for aesthetics. It's a metabolic and endocrine organ that dictates how your brain uses fuel. Strength training and sprint work increase insulin sensitivity. The way I want you to think about it is the more muscle you have, the better the glucose control. The better the glucose control means more stable brain function. What you put on your skin matters. There has been so many insights into skin health and the fact that whatever you put on your skin, from makeup to sunscreen, seeps into the bloodstream, and it can obviously cross many organs and go into those organs and cause disruption. This is why what you put on your face matters so much. I use Jones Road Beauty. Their products are minimal, super clean, and designed to work with you. I'm so bullish on really clean products. I don't want to be putting any extra chemicals on my body. I use almost everything they have. It feels so good. It smells so natural, and I always look clean and polished and natural after I wear it. Guys, go and check this out. Honestly, one of the best things that I've ever had, and I'm actually buying their face wash and their moisturizer. I'm doing everything I can to make sure that my skin gets the purest form of absolutely anything I put on it. So head to jonesroadbeauty.com, use code NEURO for a free cool gloss with your first purchase. jonesroadbeauty.com, use code NEURO. Team, there's toxins everywhere, from dry cleaning products to what we put on our skin, to how we're actually cleaning our environment, to even the air. So how do we minimize this? Well, we have to choose brands that are toxin-free. And household cleaning products are one of the biggest hidden sources of endocrine and neurological disruptors. And that's why I use Branch Basics. Their all-in-one concentrate replaces dozens of toxic products, fragrance-free, plant-based, and made to protect your environment and your biology. I use it for everything: kitchen counters, laundry, even washing produce. If you want a healthier home, start here. Even go and research it. They have so much information on their website. Go and look it up, branchbasics.com. You can use code NEURO to get 15% off their premium starter kit. That's how I got started with them. branchbasics.com, use code NEURO. I really want to hone in on this because I'm seeing how hard it is and how difficult it is to lift weights. You've got demanding careers, maybe you've got a spouse at home, maybe you've got kids. I get it. Life is freaking hard. I get that. And I know that it takes so much time and energy to get to the gym and to lift, let alone knowing what to lift, let alone to lift hard. But let me tell you, there's no easy way out, and there's no easy way of saying this. You have to love strength training. It will change the way your brain functions, and it will save you from cognitive decline. Out of every intervention I can think of, exercise is by far the number one elixir for brain health and brain span. I'm going to be doing more deep dives into the beneficial effects of strength training, but I really want to move on to one that I hardly ever speak about, and that is sprint training. It's the forgotten weapon. Sprint training doesn't get looked at, and it should. And it really falls under the line of HIIT training, if you will. But I actually want to move away from that and just talk about sprints specifically. Here's what most women get wrong. They confuse high-intensity training with endless boot camps and circuit training. Let me tell you, it leaves them drenched. It leaves them in a bath of cortisol and inflammation and fatigue. Fatigue in midlife women elevates cortisol. And elevated baseline cortisol means more belly fat, poor sleep, and inflammation that refuses to go down. True high-intensity training means polarized training. When you go hard, you go very hard. I'm talking 80 to 90% of your maximum effort for a minute or two, and then you go easy. And when you go easy, you go easy. Sprint training, guys, is phenomenal. You only have to do it once a week. We hear about VO2 max testing, or VO2 max, which is a measure of your peak respiratory fitness. It's the greatest predictor of longevity. Basically, it means that the fitter you are, the longer you're going to live. We have seen this, and this is not just correlative data, association data. This is literally, we've seen this in studies in clinical randomized controlled trials. So the fitter you are, the longer you'll live. And in order to keep increasing your fitness decade after decade, the general gold standard rule is to do something called the Norwegian 4x4, which is really freaking hard, which is like literally where you're going hard out 80 to 90% of your maximum heart rate for 4 minutes and then having a complete 4-minute break. I actually want to eliminate that because it's scaring so many people out of actually performing the exercise itself. So instead, let's think about sprints as 1 minute on, 1 minute off, or 2 minutes at sprinting at your 80 to 90%, and then having a complete 2-minute break. So that's what you have to be doing. And if you want to do that protocol, the 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off, I would suggest doing this around 10 times. That will give you the maximum benefits to not only improve bone mineral density, increase type 2 muscle fibers, improve the functioning of your heart, but you're going to be releasing myokines, which are muscle-based proteins that get released during strength training. You'll also release them when you sprint. They go into the brain and they fertilize your brain in a really good way. They help with memory consolidation. They help with better functioning of the brain. Those synapses that I mentioned earlier, you can help with the spines and the dendrites. You can grow new dendrites. You can grow new synapses. It's called synaptogenesis from sprint training. And what does that do? It gives you a better functioning brain so you can stave off dementia and Alzheimer's disease. You don't need to track it. Sprinting literally can mean battle ropes. When I say you don't need to track it, I'm meaning like you don't need to go on a running track. You can literally just get your heart rate up for 2 minutes. I do it on the Stairmaster. I have an intimate relationship with the Stairmaster. Food. Let's view food as molecular information. Food is not calories. Food is a code. A whole food Mediterranean style diet, such as vegetables, fruits, legumes, nuts, olive oils, delivers anti-inflammatory fats and antioxidants that stabilize synapses and vessels. If you have a look across the board when it comes to the best diet for Alzheimer's disease, it would be one that is high in plants. And that is because you really want to protect the blood vessels of your brain, which means that we really want to protect the lipid profile. We want to maintain a low saturated fat, anti-inflammatory diet because we know that we need to protect the blood vessels within our brain. Just like the blood vessels in your heart related to cardiovascular disease, you want to take the same approach because what's good for the heart is good for the brain. So increasing the amount of fiber you have. I'm an omnivore. I have a lot of plants in my diet. I think my diet is around 80% plants and 20% red meat, fish. I always have a lot of protein as well. I have everything. I'm not 100% plant-based, but that seems good enough. And that's what these studies point towards. Last but not least, I want to touch on one other thing that you can be including, and that's quality relationships. We don't get taught that often, but if you've ever known somebody with Alzheimer's disease, you will see over time that they become very reclused from society. They stop talking to people, and that's because their brain has decided to downsize. And when your brain decides to downsize, it doesn't want to spend energy communicating with other people. But let me tell you, one of the most beautiful things you can do for your brain is investing in quality relationships. And that starts today. And not putting energy into relationships that drain you of your energy. So being able to have beautiful conversations with other people and really investing in long-term relationships safeguards your brain, because it tells your brain that somebody is there for you. And that's not spoken about, but I predict that that's going to be a biohack in the next 5 years once we get more information on it. That brings me to the very last thing, which is brain code, decoding a woman's risk of getting Alzheimer's disease. I'm so excited for you guys to have access to my very first digital product, which is a 5-module course for a woman 40 years and above to reduce their risk of getting Alzheimer's disease. It is my greatest work ever, and it's available to you. It's not just a Pinterest board. It's a system where you will learn how to test your biomarkers, build muscle with heavy lifting, training intensities with sprints, how to protect your sleep, how to feed your brain the right code, and how to evaluate hormones with evidence. This is not an optional self-care. This is your cognitive Olympics. So if you want to go to that, you can actually click the link below, or you can come over to my Instagram. Brain Code is everywhere. And like I mentioned, it is my life's best work, and it's only going to grow more and more. So if you are a woman in midlife who wants to protect her brain, whether it's because you've had a close family member that had Alzheimer's disease, or whether you just don't want to succumb to this disease, because like I said, it's 95% of Alzheimer's disease cases are preventable, then come and join me in Brain Code. As always, thank you for joining me on the Neuro Experience podcast.